Welcome back to the channel, Classic Film Fans. Today, we're diving into one of the juiciest topics from the golden age of cinema. The stars who treated marriage like a hobby. In an era where image was everything, the personal lives of these icons were often even more dramatic than the roles they played on screen. We're counting down 15 legendary actors and actresses who said, "I do way more than just once." From quickie divorces to epic love affairs that captivated the world. These are the stories of old Hollywood's most frequent walkers down the aisle. Grab your popcorn, because this is going to be a wild ride. The list, 15 stars and their marital histories. 15. Clark Gable, 4 wives. The king of Hollywood's quest for love was as dramatic as any of his films. His first marriage to Josephine Dillon in 1924 was less a romance and more a strategic investment. Dillon, a respected acting coach 17 years his senior, saw the raw diamond in the rough that was the young Gable. She became his Pygmalion, meticulously polishing his rough edges. She lowered his voice an entire octave, fixed his posture, taught him the social graces of the elite, and guided his early stage career. However, as Gable's star began its meteoric rise at MGM, the teacher-student dynamic soured, and he left the woman who had built the foundation of his success. His second marriage to Texas socialite Rita Langham in 1931 was one of convenience and comfort. It provided the newly minted star with social credibility and a stable, if not passionately loving, home life. But it was his third marriage to the irrepressible Carole Lombard that truly defined him. Theirs was a legendary, earthy, and uproarious love affair. They were the antithesis of stuffy Hollywood royalty. They traded lavish parties for quiet nights at their ranch, where Lombard, the love of his life, called him Pa. Their home was filled with pranks, pets, and a profound, genuine affection that captivated the public. Lombard's tragic death in a 1942 plane crash while on a war bonds tour utterly shattered Gable. Devastated, he famously enlisted in the Army Air Forces as a gunner, seeking purpose in the war effort. Many close to him believed he never truly recovered. His subsequent, brief marriage to Sylvia Ashley was a hollow attempt to fill the void. His fourth and final marriage to Kay Spreckels, formerly Kay Williams, brought him a measure of peace and a son, John Clark Gable, born after his death. He was married to Spreckels, often called the last wife of the king. When he died of a heart attack in 1960, a copy of Lombard's final telegram to him found among his personal effects. 14. Ava Gardner, 3 husbands. Ava Gardner's life was a tempest of breathtaking beauty, raw talent, and unchecked emotion, and her 3 marriages were explosive chapters in that story. Her first husband was Mickey Rooney, the biggest box office star of the era. She was a fresh-faced, wide-eyed 19-year-old contract player at MGM. He was a superstar known for his boundless energy and equally boundless womanizing. Their 1942 marriage was a whirlwind, studio-arranged romance, heavily publicized as a fairy tale, but over in less than 2 years, killed by Rooney's relentless infidelity. Next was the intellectual and notoriously difficult bandleader and author Artie Shaw. Already on his 4th marriage, Shaw saw the unrefined Ava as a diamond in the rough he could polish to his exacting standards. He subjected her to a grueling curriculum of literature and classical music, constantly criticizing her grammar, her background, and her instincts, leaving her feeling insecure and intellectually inferior. The marriage lasted less than a year. Then came the great, all-consuming love of her life, Frank Sinatra. Their affair began while both were miserably married to others, causing a scandal that nearly ended Sinatra's career, as he was in a severe professional slump. She was the glamorous, bankable movie star. He was the struggling singer. Their 1951 marriage was explosively passionate, a volatile cycle of volcanic, public fights and intensely passionate reconciliations, all played out in the glaring spotlight of the tabloids. Gardner was fiercely loyal, supporting him financially and emotionally, and was famously instrumental in his comeback, personally lobbying for him to get the role of Maggio in From Here to Eternity, which won him an Academy Award and resurrected his career. Though their own marriage, strained by professional jealousy and his resurgent fame, ended in a bitter divorce in 1957, their bond never truly broke. Sinatra paid her medical bills later in life and was reportedly devastated at her passing in 1990, a testament to the indelible mark she left on his soul. 13. Rita Hayworth, 5 husbands. The story of Rita Hayworth is a heartbreaking tragedy of a woman who was endlessly adored by the global public but never felt truly seen or loved by the men in her life. Her first marriage in 1937 was to Edward C. Judson, a ruthless businessman 22 years her senior. Judson was her Svengali. He orchestrated her complete transformation from Margarita Cancino into the screen siren Rita Hayworth. This involved the painful and extensive process of electrolysis to raise her hairline, changing her name, meticulously managing her career, and controlling her every move, all for his own financial gain. She escaped him in 1942. Her marriage to the brilliant Mercurial Orson Welles in 1943 was a meeting of 2 immense stars. They had a daughter, Rebecca, but Welles was a distracted and often absent husband, more married to his art and his myriad projects than to her. The relationship fizzled out by 1947. Her most famous marriage was to Prince Ali Khan in 1949. This wasn't just a Hollywood scandal. It was a global event. She became a real-life princess, but was thrust into a gilded cage of immense pressure, strict protocol, and isolating loneliness. The constant, aggressive media hounding was unbearable. After having her second daughter, Yasmin, she fled, citing mental cruelty. Her fourth marriage to singer Dick Haymes was an outright disaster. He was deep in debt and saw Rita as a financial lifeline, using her money and further draining her emotionally and financially. Her fifth and final marriage to producer James Hill began with a flicker of hope but ended cruelly when he callously told her she was washed up as a star. Hayworth's most poignant quote perfectly summed up her romantic plight. "Every man I've known has fallen in love with Gilda and wakened with me. She was forever loved for an illusion, never for her true, vulnerable self." 12. Charlie Chaplin for wives. Charlie Chaplin's personal life was a silent film melodrama that often threatened to eclipse his unparalleled artistic genius. His first marriage in 1918 was to 16-year-old Mildred Harris. Chaplin, then 29, claimed he was tricked into it by a false pregnancy, and he famously described the union as being signed into captivity. It was a miserable, brief entanglement. His second marriage was even more scandalous. In 1924, he married another 16-year-old, Lita Gray, whom he had hired as a child actress for his film The Kid. When she became pregnant during the filming of The Gold Rush, a massive scandal erupted. Gray's mother hired a ruthless lawyer, and her divorce filing was explosively detailed, alleging cruel and bizarre behavior, and was so salacious that newspapers had to print it in separate supplements. The scandal and the financial settlement nearly ended his career. His relationship with the vibrant and modern actress Paulette Goddard was a respite. They never officially confirmed a marriage, though they claimed to have been wed in secret on a boat to the Far East in 1936. They were a powerful and glamorous Hollywood couple for 6 years until they gradually grew apart. His salvation came in the form of Una O'Neill, the daughter of famed playwright Eugene O'Neill. He was 54. She was 18. Her father was so appalled he disowned her and never spoke to her again. Yet, against all odds and public scorn, it worked spectacularly. Una provided the unwavering stability, deep love, and fierce loyalty the lonely genius had always craved. They had 8 children and remained devotedly married for 34 years until his death, creating a happy, chaotic, and intensely creative family unit in their exile in Switzerland, finally finding the peace that had eluded him for so long. Judy Garland, 5 husbands. Judy Garland's desperate search for love was a direct and tragic result of a childhood utterly stolen by the MGM studio system. From adolescence, she was taught that her sole value was in her talent and her ability to generate money, while her physical appearance was constantly criticized, leading to a lifelong battle with insecurity and addiction. Her first marriage in 1941 to composer David Rose was quickly annulled by studio boss Louis B. Mayer, who felt it would ruin her carefully crafted girl-next-door image. Her second marriage to director Vincente Minnelli in 1945 was a meeting of sophisticated artistic souls. He understood her creatively like no one else, guiding her to magnificent performances in classics like The Clock and Meet Me in St. Louis. They had daughter Liza, but Minnelli, a quiet and reserved man, could not handle Judy's increasing dependency on pills, uppers to work, downers to sleep, and her intense emotional swings. Her third husband, Sid Luft, was her manager and fiercest defender. He was a tough, brash man who helped engineer her triumphant comeback in A Star is Born and fought the studio's tooth and nail for her. Their marriage was a battle of two strong wills, filled with fiery arguments, passionate reconciliations, and two more children, Lorna and Joey. But Sid also had his own demons with gambling and alcohol, and their partnership eventually crumbled under the weight of mutual instability. Her fourth marriage to actor Mark Herron was brief and, friends suspected, one of convenience rather than love. Her final marriage to nightclub manager Mickey Deans was a desperate attempt to find a caretaker and anchor. He was with her in London when she died tragically of a barbiturate overdose in 1969 at the age of 47. Her entire life was a heartbreaking cycle of looking for a strong, loving man to replace the father figures and studio executives who had controlled, exploited, and ultimately broken her since birth. 10. Mickey Rooney, 8 wives. Mickey Rooney's 8 marriages are a textbook case of a man forever seeking the stability and unconditional love he never experienced in his chaotic childhood as a vaudeville star thrust into the Hollywood machine. He was a perpetual optimist in love, always believing with unwavering faith that the next one would be the one. His first marriage to Ava Gardner was a youthful, studio-driven fling. His second was to Alabama beauty queen Betty Jane Reyes, a more traditional union that produced 2 sons. His third was to the glamorous actress Martha Vickers. His fourth was to model Elaine Mankin. His fifth was to Barbara Ann Thomason, an actress with whom he seemed to have found lasting happiness and with whom he had more children. This marriage ended in unimaginable tragedy when Barbara was shot and killed by her lover. Rooney was utterly shattered. His sixth marriage was to Marge Lane, a waitress he met while performing in dinner theater. His seventh was to Carolyn Hockett. His eighth and final marriage in 1978 to Jan Chamberlain, a country singer, finally provided the enduring partnership he had always sought. They were together for over 35 years until his death in 2014. Rooney himself often joked, "I'm the only guy in the world who has a marriage license made out to whom it may concern." But his marital record spoke to a deep, abiding loneliness and a constant, almost childlike, need to be loved, adored, and looked after. He spent millions on his wives and faced significant financial problems because of his many divorces, yet he never stopped believing in the institution of marriage itself. 9. Lana Turner, 7 husbands. Lana Turner's 7 marriages were a very public, often desperate search for protection, stability, and happiness that always seemed to elude the sweater girl. Her taste in men was famously and consistently disastrous. Her first husband was the intellectual bandleader Artie Shaw, who almost immediately left her for another woman, making her feel inadequate. Her second was businessman Stephen Crane, whom she married and divorced twice, and it was later revealed their first marriage was actually bigamous because he hadn't finalized a divorce from his first wife. Her third husband was volatile millionaire Bob Topping, whose rampant alcoholism and physical abuse made constant headlines. Her fourth was actor Lex Barker, known for playing Tarzan. He was handsome but harbored a violent streak, and their divorce allegations were ugly and public. Her fifth was aviator Fred May, and her sixth was businessman Robert Eaton. But the relationship that defined her life, and nearly ended it, wasn't a husband. It was her affair with mobster Johnny Stompanato. This dangerously volatile relationship culminated in the horrific night in 1958 when her 14-year-old daughter, Cheryl Crane, stabbed Stompanato to death in defense of her mother during a violent argument in Lana's bedroom. The subsequent trial was a media circus of the highest order, exposing the dark, terrifying underbelly of her glamorous life, with the court ultimately ruling Cheryl's act as justifiable homicide. Her seventh and final marriage was to a hypnotist, Ronald Dante, who turned out to be a con man and a bigamist. Turner's life was the ultimate example of Hollywood glamour masking a profound depth of personal pain and trauma. 8. Artie Shaw, 8 Wives. Artie Shaw was the frustrating intellectual genius of the big band era. A man perpetually bored, intellectually restless, and in a relentless search for an idealized, intellectually perfect partner who simply did not exist. He famously said, "I'm not hard to live with, I'm impossible to live with," a statement his marital history thoroughly supports. His marriages were to some of the most desirable and beautiful women of the era, but he was never satisfied, always finding them wanting in intellectual depth. He was married to actress Lana Turner for less than a year, later dismissing her as uninterested in the things that mattered to him. His marriage to Ava Gardner ended for similar reasons. He found her intellectually unstimulating despite her staggering beauty and raw talent. He was married to author Kathleen Winsor, who wrote the scandalous novel Forever Amber, perhaps thinking a fellow writer would finally understand his complex mind. That, too, failed to hold his interest. He married 8 times in total, his longest union being with actress Doris Dowling, with whom he had a son. Ultimately, Shaw gave up on marriage altogether, retiring from music at the height of his fame, moving to Spain, and living alone for the last 3 decades of his life, proving that his greatest, most demanding, and only lasting love affair was with his own brilliant, critical, and impossible-to-please mind. 7. Tony Curtis, 6 Wives. Tony Curtis's journey through marriage perfectly reflects the arc of his own life, career, and ego, from ambitious young stud to Hollywood royalty to a man seeking redemption. His first marriage to actress Janet Leigh in 1951 was the ultimate Hollywood fantasy. They were the beautiful, young, incredibly talented couple everyone adored. They made films together like the classic Houdini and had 2 daughters, Kelly and Jamie Lee Curtis. But behind the closed doors of their pristine Benedict Canyon home, Curtis's deep-seated insecurities and rampant infidelities, particularly with a young Marilyn Monroe-like starlet, tore them apart. The divorce was a major scandal that shattered the perfect image. His second marriage to German actress Christine Kaufmann began on the set of Taras Bulba. He left Leigh for her. This marriage also produced 2 children but fell apart under the strain of his career decline and growing drug use. His third marriage to Leslie Allen was longer and produced 2 sons, but ended when he had an affair with a much younger model. His fourth marriage to Lisa Deutsch was brief. His fifth and final marriage to Jill Vandenberg was a quiet chapter. She was over 40 years his junior and acted as his devoted caretaker and companion in his final years in Nevada. Curtis's love life was a constant search for the adoration and validation he felt on screen, but it often left a trail of heartbreak for the families he created and then left behind. 6. Ginger Rogers, 5 Husbands. Ginger Rogers, a devout Christian Scientist and a fiercely independent, astute businesswoman, constantly balanced her strong will with a deep, traditional desire for a stable family life, a central conflict that led to 5 attempts to find that balance. Her first marriage was to Jack Culpepper, a childhood sweetheart and fellow dancer, but it ended almost as soon as she left for Broadway and a world of greater opportunity. Her second marriage to actor Lou Ayres in 1934 was her first Hollywood union. Ayres was a kind, gentle man, but his pacifist views later caused controversy during World War II. Her third marriage to Jack Briggs, a Marine, happened during the patriotic fervor of the war, but ended when he returned from service a changed, distant man. Her fourth marriage to French actor Jacques Bergerac was her most scandalous. He was 16 years her junior and a former gigolo. Her friends and her formidable mother, Lela, strongly disapproved, and the marriage quickly crumbled under the weight of gossip and incompatibility. Her fifth and final marriage to producer William Marshall was initially happy, but ended in betrayal when she discovered he had mismanaged and squandered a significant portion of her hard-earned fortune. Through it all, Rogers remained a pragmatic and resilient woman, always picking herself up, returning to work on stage and screen, and proving definitively that she didn't need a man to be a monumental success, even if her heart always wanted one. 5. Richard Burton, 5 Wives, 2 with Taylor. Richard Burton was a man of immense, almost Shakespearean appetites, for alcohol, for literature, for fame, and for love. His first marriage to Sybil Williams was stable and produced 2 daughters. She was his anchor and support as his brilliant stage career soared in the UK. Then, in 1962, on the scandal-plagued set of Cleopatra, he met Elizabeth Taylor, and his life exploded into a supernova of passion, press, and perpetual paparazzi. Their first marriage in 1964 was Le Scandale, a global event that defined celebrity for a generation. They were Burton and Taylor, the most famous, desired, and tempestuous couple in the world. Their life was a whirlwind of unimaginable jewels, like the 33-carat Krupp diamond, yachts, private jets, and legendary, alcohol-fueled fights that were as passionate as their reconciliations. They divorced in 1974, but the gravitational pull between them was too strong. They remarried in 1975 in a remote village in Botswana, only to find the same problems persisted, leading to a final, bitter divorce in 1976. Burton was utterly devastated. He married Susie Hunt, a young model, and then finally Sally Hay, a makeup artist, who provided a calm stability and was with him when he died suddenly of a brain hemorrhage in 1984. In his famously eloquent diaries, he wrote of Taylor with a poetic ache, calling her his ocean and his favorite sin, proving that despite all the other wives, she was the great, unshakable, and torturous love of his life. 4. Zsa Zsa Gabor, 9 husbands. Zsa Zsa Gabor didn't just have marriages. She expertly curated them as a primary career. She famously declared, "I am a wonderful housekeeper. Every time I leave a man, I keep his house. And I never hated a man enough to give him his diamonds back." Marriage was her profession, and she was its most glamorous and witty expert. Her first marriage to Burton Asaf Belgi was a political union, quickly annulled. Her second, to hotel magnate Conrad Hilton, gave her the famous name and entree into international high society she craved. Her third, to the acerbic actor George Sanders, was her longest and, she often claimed, the love of her life, though he cruelly left her for her own mother's friend. Subsequent husbands included oil magnate Joshua S. Cosden Jr., inventor Herbert Huttner, and plastic surgeon Frank Jameson. Her later marriages became pure, glorious tabloid theater. Her sixth marriage to the Duke of Frascati was highly questionable. Her seventh to Michael O'Hara was longer, and her eighth to Felipe de Alba was annulled after just 1 day. Her ninth and final marriage to Prince Frederick von Anhalt, a man who had frankly bought his title, was a 30-year-long performance of royalty and devotion until her death in 2016. Gabor brilliantly weaponized marriage as a tool for fame, financial security, and endless headlines, mastering the art of being famous for being famous and always leaving with the jewels. 3. Elizabeth Taylor, 8 husbands, 7 men. Elizabeth Taylor's 8 marriages were not a frivolous pursuit. They were the epic, operatic journey of a woman who loved love with her entire being, with a courage and intensity that defiantly broke all convention. Each husband represented a distinct and defining chapter in her tumultuous life. Nicky Hilton was the reckless escape from studio control into a nightmare of shocking abuse and gambling. Michael Wilding was a gentle, older refuge, a quiet father figure after the Hilton trauma. Mike Todd was the passionate, thrilling, larger-than-life love who made her feel truly, vibrantly alive for the first time. His tragic death in a plane crash left a void so profound she emotionally turned to his best friend, Eddie Fisher, a decision that made her the most hated woman in America for stealing him from America's sweetheart, Debbie Reynolds. Then came the twin sons of her life, Richard Burton. Their 2 marriages were a real-life Shakespearean drama of obsession, genius, violent arguments, and addictive passion. They loved and hated with equal, magnificent ferocity. After Burton, she married Senator John Warner, trying on the role of political wife, but found it stiflingly lonely and boring. Her final marriage to construction worker Larry Fortensky, whom she met in rehab, was her most human attempt at a normal life, famously celebrated at Michael Jackson's Neverland Ranch. Taylor never apologized for the scale of her heart. She lived by her own rule. "I don't know how to be a half-hearted lover. I've been through it all, and I'm not sorry for any of it." 2. Jennifer Jones, 3 husbands. Jennifer Jones's marital story is one of profound transformation, from a controlled object to an independent woman. Her first marriage to actor Robert Walker was a story of young love and promise. They were two struggling actors who had two sons together and seemed destined for a quiet life. But everything changed when she met the powerful, obsessive producer David O. Selznick. Selznick, who had created Vivien Leigh's career, saw in Jones, then Phyllis Isley, his ultimate masterpiece. He micromanaged her career with terrifying precision, guiding her to an Academy Award for The Song of Bernadette, and eventually left his wife to be with her. Their marriage was one of total immersion and control. He wrote her thousands of memos. The memos, as they were known, dictating her every move, from which scripts to accept, to how to wear her hair, to how to conduct herself in interviews, effectively isolating her from friends and her former life. It was a gilded cage built on devotion and domination. After Selznick's death in 1965, Jones was emotionally and professionally adrift. She found her salvation in her third marriage to reclusive billionaire industrialist and art collector Norton Simon. This relationship was quieter and more respectful. They shared a deep passion for art and philanthropy, and he provided the stability, respect, and partnership she had long been denied, allowing her to finally step out of the long shadow of the men who had defined and created her. 1. Joan Collins, 5 husbands. Joan Collins, much like her iconic character Alexis Carrington, is the ultimate survivor, and her 5 marriages are a testament to her resilience, impeccable timing, and absolute refusal to ever settle. Her first husband was Irish actor Maxwell Reid, who, she shockingly revealed in her memoirs, drugged and attempted to sexually assault her before their marriage, and later allegedly tried to sell her to a wealthy Arab sheik. She escaped that nightmare with fierce determination. Her second marriage to British singer-actor Anthony Newley was a swinging 60s partnership. They had 2 children, Tara and Sasha, but Newley's rampant and blatant infidelity was devastatingly painful. Her third marriage to businessman Ron Cass was one of jet-set glamour, parties, and success. But it ended when his record company failed and he developed a severe cocaine addiction, nearly taking Collins down with him financially. Her fourth marriage to Swedish singer Peter Holm was by far the messiest. A short-lived union that ended in a vicious, public, and expensive divorce battle where he famously sold his story to the tabloids, portraying her as a monster. Her fifth and final marriage to Percy Gibson, a Peruvian-born theater manager over 30 years her junior, has been her rock. They have been married for over 20 years, a partnership built on mutual respect, shared humor, and genuine love, proving that after all the drama, betrayal, and headlines, the divine Ms. Collins finally found her truly happy ending strictly on her own terms. Which of these stories shocked you the most? Who did we miss? Let us know in the comments below. And don't forget to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and hit that bell icon so you don't miss our next deep dive into the secrets of old Hollywood. Thanks for watching.